I'm going to come up here because now I want you to realize that that concludes the recitation of the briefest form of the gifts of love we have given to and for each other in this church in the past year, and that following this service in the social hall, we will congratulate you with something to eat. And if you have and want, there are flowers you can take home to plant in your garden to remind you of the seeds that you continue to grow even when you're not here with us. So at this point, I'm going to break all the rules of decorum and say it's time for us to congratulate not only the people you've heard, but yourselves for the gifts that you have received. Please give everyone a hand. Now I'm going to tell you a story because we don't have a reading today, but a story will do. I want to tell you about a fellow that I almost knew, even though he died in 1942. Norbert Fabian Čapek was a Czechoslovak who grew up in a Roman Catholic home but repudiated his faith after being an altar boy and discovering that the priest was not always as good as his word. We'll go no further than that. This was in the late 19th century. But at some point, he found the Baptist church there in Prague and became an eager Baptist and went out to sell Bibles, and he began to preach. And he founded a dozen churches when he was doing it, a very effective entrepreneur he was. But as he did this more and more, he realized that once you start thinking for yourself, you begin to think thoughts that perhaps other people don't want you to think. He was especially attracted to the Moravian church of in the ancient parts of the Bohemia where he was raised. He praised the religious conviction of them and said that they valued the spiritual life above teachings or dogmatics. So he joined an organization called the International Association for Religious Freedom. And at its 1910 Congress, he met a fellow from his own country, Thomas Garrigue Masaryk. Why do you need to know about Thomas Garrigue Masaryk? Well, he's the son of the president of Czechoslovakia, who had married Charlotte Garrigue, who came from Brooklyn, New York, who was a child in the church where I served before I came here. So I almost met, admittedly 40 years too late, Norbert Čapek. And he was so intrigued by Thomas Masaryk, who preached to him the liberal gospel of his Unitarian faith, that he left Prague, went to the United States, and slowly became a Unitarian minister. Not to stay there, so that he could go back to Prague and start a church there, which he did. And he was so good at it, I told you he was an entrepreneur, that at the height of his career, there were 3,200 people getting together every Sunday to share the liberal message in Prague, Czechoslovakia. Well, the trouble with being good at something is that when people don't like you, you're easy to find. And when the Third Reich became the de facto rulers of Czechoslovakia, he was hauled into court for listening to foreign broadcasts, which he did, which is a capital offense. But they decided they'd only convict him of treason instead, and they sent him to prison. He sent them to a prison in Germany, not too many miles away, in a little town you may have heard of called Dachau. And in 1942, to make room for others, they sent him to Linz so he could stand in line to be gassed. So Norbert Čapek, who created a church of 3,200 people, died a casualty of World War II. But he did something remarkable. First of all, we talk about him now and not the Third Reich. And secondarily, he created something called the Flower Communion. His community of new liberals and Unitarians wanted to do a ritual. But the ritual of the Catholic Church, or even of the Baptist Church, didn't appeal to them. So he created something called the Flower Communion, in which he invited people in his community, whoever they were, to come one Sunday a year, in the spring, of course, because that's when the flowers bloom, and bring a flower with them. And then at the end of the service, after a prayer of consecration, they would each take home a flower, not the one they brought. The gift you give is not the same one you receive, but we all give and receive. And that is the communion that counts. The words he used are given to us now. And I've asked Matthew if he would consecrate these flowers with the help of some of our younger people.
I'd like to invite the flower bearers to come forward and join me. And actually, I'd like to invite all of you to join me. We're going to read this responsively. It's number 724 in your hymnal. 724. And I want you guys to help me by blessing these, so I want you to put your hand on a flower. This is a symbol of this community blessing all these flowers, okay? I'll start, and you guys read the next stanza, and we'll go back and forth. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessings on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and of gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are indeed needed to do thy work in this world. Amen. And now if you guys will help me carry these out, please remember to take a flower with you on your way out as a reminder of this communion and this community.
I think we're going to enjoy the work of the Gifts of Music now as our newest ensemble comes to join us.